Welcome back to Venture Vibes. In 2025, Malaysia is making waves. With record economic growth, booming investments, and international headlines praising its transformation, some are wondering, is Malaysia on track to overtake Singapore as Southeast Asia's economic powerhouse? Let's get real. Malaysia's economy in 2025 is stronger than it has been in over a decade. In the first quarter of the year, it attracted RM 89.8 billion in approved investments, that's roughly $21 billion. This is no small feat, and here's the twist, a major chunk of that came from Singapore itself. Singapore is investing heavily in Malaysia's development, especially in Johor. Why? Because the two countries are now jointly developing a massive cross-border project, the Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone, or SEZ. This zone, launched in January 2025, is already drawing attention as a potential game-changer. It could become one of the largest regional manufacturing and services hubs in ASEAN. But is this partnership a sign of mutual benefit, or the beginning of a regional power shift? Malaysia's growth is backed by several core strengths in 2025. First, its services and manufacturing sectors are expanding faster than anticipated. The services sector alone grew 5.3% in the second quarter of 2025, and manufacturing jumped another 3.8%. The country's GDP is projected to grow between 4.5 to 5.5% for the full year, even as global trade slows down. Kuala Lumpur has also embraced high-value sectors like semiconductors, electric vehicles, AI-powered data centers, and even aerospace components. The country is positioning itself as a secondary supply chain hub, filling the vacuum left by China due to rising trade tensions with the US. Malaysia's government under Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has committed to creating a modern, digital, and inclusive economy. Initiatives like Ekonomi Madani and Malaysia Digital are boosting investor confidence. On top of that, Malaysia is scaling up its green energy transition. Billions are being pumped into solar farms, hydrogen projects, and energy storage infrastructure. But there's a catch. Malaysia still relies heavily on coal for power. In July 2025, it increased coal-powered energy output to meet growing electricity demand. Environmentalists are warning that if Malaysia doesn't transition quickly, its economic momentum could be weighed down by carbon penalties and investor hesitancy in the ESG space. Meanwhile, across the causeway, Singapore continues to lead in finance, trade, biotech, and innovation. Its GDP growth for Q2 2025 clocked in at 4.3%, and exports rose 13% year-on-year in June, mostly driven by high-end electronics, machinery, and pharmaceuticals. Still, the island nation isn't immune to global risks. With trade tensions mounting, particularly between the US and China, Singapore's economy is forecast to slow down to just 1 to 3% annual growth. That's a significant dip compared to past decades. Environmental risks are also rising. Singapore faces long-term threats from sea level rise and heat stress. A recent report estimated climate-related damages could cost Singapore $1.5 billion per year by 2035 if resilience measures aren't ramped up. So is Malaysia really in a position to challenge Singapore's dominance? Let's look closer. The Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone could be the single most important factor here. Stretching over 3,500 square kilometers, it's nearly 4 times the size of Singapore itself. The idea is to combine Malaysia's land, labor, and resources with Singapore's capital, technology, and global networks. By June 2025, over 140 project inquiries had been received for the SEZ. The initial goal is to launch at least 50 major projects and create over 20,000 skilled jobs within the first 5 years. Singaporean companies are already leasing land and setting up factories in Johor. This isn't just a business move, it's a strategic pivot. Singapore understands that space and costs are constraints. So instead of competing with Malaysia, it's opting to collaborate, while securing influence across the supply chain. Malaysian policymakers, in return, are welcoming the influx of high-quality jobs, infrastructure, and technology transfer. But despite the cooperation, comparisons are inevitable. Malaysia has land, a larger workforce, cheaper operating costs, and growing geopolitical relevance. It's part of multiple regional frameworks, and ASEAN nations are beginning to look at Malaysia as the new middle ground power in the region. Malaysia even took the lead in 2025 in lobbying for a unified ASEAN response to US tariffs, something Singapore traditionally played a bigger role in. Singapore, however, still controls the intellectual property, the banking powerhouses, the venture capital, and the premium global reputation. It's ranked among the top 5 in the world for ease of doing business, while Malaysia, though improved, still lags in bureaucracy and legal enforcement. If Malaysia wants to surpass Singapore economically, it needs to do more than grow. It needs deep reforms in education, governance, digital access, and legal institutions. It needs to retain talent, stop the brain drain, and build systems that compete with the best, not just locally, but globally. One of the most telling stats comes from the IMD World Competitiveness Rankings for 2025. Singapore held its position in the global top 3, while Malaysia jumped to 23rd, gaining 5 spots. That's impressive, but it still shows the gap in high-level economic infrastructure. Also, foreign investors continue to see Singapore as the safe bet. It has political stability, zero corruption at the institutional level, a fully digital economy, and world-class arbitration courts. Malaysia, while improving, still struggles with political uncertainties and corruption at state levels. On the other hand, infrastructure in Malaysia is booming. The upcoming RTS link connecting Johor Bahru and Singapore is scheduled to open in 2026. This rapid transit system will move thousands of people daily, cutting border crossing times dramatically and integrating both cities like never before. Add to that the East Coast Rail Link, LRT projects in Iskandar, and the newly designated Forest City Free Zone, and you've got a picture of a country preparing for regional dominance. But whether Malaysia can crash Singapore's economic dominance is the wrong question. What's really happening is a shift toward interdependence. Malaysia and Singapore are no longer rivals, they're economic co-pilots. The SEZ is not a battlefield, it's a bridge. Malaysia may never fully replace Singapore's role, but it doesn't have to. Instead of one rising while the other falls, both countries are finding ways to expand together. Malaysia is becoming the region's production and logistics center, while Singapore remains the high-value command post for finance, law, and innovation. If Malaysia continues to rise with good governance, green policies, digital readiness, and strategic diplomacy, it could become the regional engine that powers ASEAN into the next decade. But it won't be at Singapore's expense. It will be through cooperation, alignment, and shared ambition that both Malaysia and Singapore shape the future of Southeast Asia. So what do you think? Is Malaysia rising fast enough to lead the region? Or is it better off growing alongside Singapore, not against it? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more deep dives into Asia's transformation stories. And as always, enjoy the vibes.